Hi everyone, it's Dr. Damien. This short video, we're going to look at the 4 steps to creating and executing great quality content. The first step in the process is to write a detailed buyer persona based on research and some educated guesses. What is the buyer persona? Well, it's a semi-fictional representation of your ideal buyer. It's like a composite sketch of your target audience. It's like the target market brought to life in the form of an individual. This is important because this individual is who we're writing our content for. Personas help us make them real, so you can focus on creating content for them. For your assignments, you're going to create a buyer persona for the person that you're writing your blog content for. To do this, we're going to be using the tool by UserForge. Once you're at UserForge, sign in and create a free account. Once you've signed in, you're going to be asked to create a workspace. Okay, from here, just select the free plan and add a buyer persona. So this is the buyer persona that you're going to write specifically to address a stereotypical user from your target audience. So for me, my blog post was about fishing in Abu Dhabi. And specifically, I've written the post to target an expat fisherman, someone who had moved to the UAE, who loved fishing, but simply just didn't know where to go about it, where to fish, where to buy the equipment. So I'm going to call my group here expat fisherman. And in the assignment, it asks you to make sure that you include a quote, goal, story, and also the needs of that particular buyer. So I'm going to create my buyer persona, and here you can see the persona on the left, but it doesn't include any of the information. So now I'm going to add some sections. Specifically, I'm going to add a photo of this buyer to make that person come to life. So for me, the expat fisherman, I've already found a photo that I think appeals and is really descriptive of that target audience. I'm also going to enable statistics, so to give a little bit of demographic information about my particular individual. He has a master's degree. He is located in Abu Dhabi. He's aged around 52 and an income of around 30,000 dirhams per month. Okay, so I'm done here, and all of a sudden my buyer persona is starting to come to life. Now it's time for me to add these sections: the quote, the goals, the story, and the needs. Okay, I'm going to include each of them now, and you can have a look. Here it is, my buyer persona for David, the expat fisherman. You can see his demographic details here. I have a quote: "I'd rather be fishing." Now, David has certain goals. He moved to the UAE to become financially independent. To escape the pressures of work is very important to him, and that is really why he is fishing. And he also wants to enjoy life. So he's not just here to work, but he also wants to make sure that he's living a good life. So David and his family moved to Abu Dhabi from the UK. He made the move to get ahead financially, but also to have an adventure. He really likes it in the UAE, but he finds his job stressful, and his teenage children, they miss their friends in the UK, which makes life a little bit stressful as well. David used to be an avid fisherman in the UK. It was his hobby. It helped him to escape the pressures of work. He has a highly stressful job. David would like to have a similar experience here, but he just doesn't know where to start. So you can see now with this story, it gives me a lot of information that's going to help me target my blog content. So the content that I write is going to be written specifically to cater to David and his needs. So what are his needs? Well, David needs some local knowledge. While he was an accomplished fisherman back in the UK, he doesn't know where the best places to fish are in the UAE, doesn't know where to begin, doesn't know where the fish are biting and how to catch them. David wants to buy fishing gear that lasts more than a couple of trips. He doesn't want to spend an awful amount of money though, because his main goal here is to become financially independent. So David needs a hobby to take his mind off his stressful job, the other pressures of life, the challenges of moving to a new country. So with this buyer persona, it gives me now a real vivid image, a vivid description of someone who I can write my blog content for. And if you go to my blog post on the Review AE website, you can see that I've specifically written it for David. Once you've written your blog post, you need to take a screenshot of it for me to submit with your assignments. Then I can judge and assess whether your blog post has been specifically written for David or your buyer persona. The next stage in creating and executing great content is to identify where in the buyer's journey your buyer persona is located. So are you creating content for an individual that is still in the awareness stage? They're just realizing that they have a problem that exists. Or are you creating content for someone who is in the consideration stage, who's actively researching the problem and they're looking for solutions? Or are you creating content for someone who's in the decision stage, who's almost ready to make the purchase and just needs a gentle nudge along the way? The content that you create needs to be specifically designed to meet the part of the buyer's journey that your buyer persona is located in. So an individual in the decision stage might want a free trial to test the product to see that it actually meets the needs. Or an individual in the consideration stage might want a nice white paper that compares the criteria of your product alongside your competitors. As you're designing content, also consider the information and entertainment axis. So are you creating content that is specifically designed to inform the consumer? Or are you creating content that is specifically designed to entertain? We can put this on a grid alongside the awareness to purchase decision journey. And you can see we have a number of different content types on this axis that could be used and considered based on where they are on those two axes. The next step in creating and executing great content is to align that content with your brand pillars. By brand pillars, we're referring to the brand's personality and the brand's story. So for example, if you think of Coca-Cola, all of the content they create is very much aligned with their personality of being a fun and happy company that likes sharing and caring and giving to the consumer. To identify your brand's story and personality, you probably want to go back and have a look at what your values are and what the mission is and why the company was really created. We want to create an emotional connection with the consumer. They want to choose us because they feel like they can connect with us, they understand us, and we have a personality that matches theirs. So for example, Kareem. So Kareem is a local company, and very much they emphasize this point in most of their communications. Their story is they're a local company with big ambitions, but they're different and they're not afraid to be different. They're unique, perhaps just like you. So they're bold, they're positive, they're playful, they're focused on relationships. So we can see these content pillars in all of their communications. Here we have an example of them demonstrating how cheeky they are. And here is another piece of media on social that is emphasizing the relationships. Here we have them again being a very local company, focusing on the region, more local plus cheeky content. And finally, more local cheeky content this time where they're actually promoting their company, Kareem, on the back of a competitor, the taxi service in Dubai. So we need to think about what Review AE's story is, and we'll do this as a part of our next activity. The final stage in the creation and execution of great content is planning on when it's going to occur, who's going to do what, and what policies would be adhered to. When considering when it's going to occur, it's best to create an editorial calendar. An editorial calendar will map out when things will happen. So when the content will be created, edited, and finally published. It's best to be consistent with an editorial calendar. So for example, every second Tuesday, the goal might be to create a blog entry. Or every single day, our goal is to create 2 new pieces of social media content. We need a plan to ensure that we have a consistent level of content throughout the year. We also need a plan so that we can schedule for events and holidays, and we can map our creation of content around those things. The editorial calendar will also allow us to assign who is responsible for certain aspects of the content, whether it's its creation, its editorial aspects, or its publication. We also need to consider who is in charge of approvals. So there's a governance aspects to this as well, and who decides whether or not this piece of content is actually adhering to our brand's pillars and our brand story, and it is something that we want to share publicly.